what helps is if you like what you're doing, right? Because there's going to be many days where you leave the office and you don't want to get on the subway and go up to campus and do your work, right? And if you don't like what you're doing, it makes it a lot harder to do that, right? So being in a field that has that stimulates you, definitely gives a little bit of momentum and motivation to keep going, even when it's really tough.
Hello and welcome to another recording of Anchoring Hope with Leaders in Tech. What do I mean by that? Well, leadership creates hope. And hope, if we anchor on that hope, then everybody works towards the same goal and companies advances. And if companies advances, society advances. And if society advances, the countries get better. That's why I love what I do. And today we have with us Kempton Presley. Kempton, welcome to the show.
Thank you, David.
Kempton, for the audience, tell me your full name, where do you live, and what do you do for a living?
Sure. So my name is Kempton Presley. I live in Nashville, Tennessee, Music City. I am the CEO of AdhereHealth, a company that helps people take their medications the right way and adhere to other protocols. And I am an adjunct professor at Vanderbilt in the Data Science Institute.
This podcast is brought to you by ISU Corp. Are you having trouble with your software projects? Is there a project that's taking too long or a technology you can't handle? We can help. We are ISU Corp, experts in custom software since 2005. With almost 20 years of experience, we can solve any technical problem from new businesses to satellite software. We've done it all. Let us turn your ideas into reality. Learn more about how we can help by visiting us at www.isucorp.ca. Your solution starts here.
Oh, wow. How do you have time to do that? Being a real business.
A lot of good coffee. Yeah. A little bit of beer too, so that helps.
I've been to Nashville once and I fell in love with the city. It's beautiful.
Oh, it's a great place. It's growing really nice. But you need to come back.
For sure. Yes. I gotta bring my wife with me next time,
Definitely do. For sure. A lot of fun.
So, tell me a bit more about the business you're leading. What do you guys focus on?
Sure. So AdhereHealth is a tech-enabled service that helps people from all different walks of life to get on the right medication protocols, adhere to those protocols, and adhere to other best practices and health behaviors.
Give me an example. So let's say I need medicine. What happens after?
Sure. So we, through our partnerships with our clients, who are often various types of payers in the healthcare space, we get your data and we can see that you may have a condition that warrants a certain type of medication use. And in turn, we'll look at your pharmacy and medication utilization to see whether you're taking your medications the right way for your condition, to determine whether you're taking those medications consistently, to determine whether you're taking the wrong medications for your condition, or whether you're taking multiple medications that could harm you because of their interaction.
That's amazing. And how many times people start taking medications that hurt each other, and then it's a big deal. How do you accomplish that, though, through technology?
Sure. So we bring in a lot of different data sources, mainly from through insurance claims, external information, eligibility information, hospital discharge information, as well as other psychographic detail and demographic detail. And that allows us to create a profile of every patient in the populations we serve. And that profile is dynamic and it reflects all the different patterns of that person's healthcare usage. And so we have algorithms in place that allow us to see, hey, David, we see that you're a diabetic and that you've taken your medication a little bit, but you need to be taking it more consistently. Or you're a diabetic and you need to be checking your A1C, or you need to be going to get your eye exam we can see whether or not that's happening based on your utilization patterns. And if it's not, or there's an opportunity to improve your adherence or your behaviors, we receive a flag, and it tells us to reach out to you, to your doctor, and or your pharmacy. And through that, we can impart information about best practices and say, hey, we see there's an opportunity to improve your health. There's an opportunity to improve your care. Here's why it matters. And then we continue to track to see whether you made that change that we recommended. And if you did, we consider it a success. And so, that's
How do you guys make money?
we go at risk in most of these cases, David. So that's that circumstance I just told you about for the diabetic that has several different measures that matter. So whether they're taking their meds the right way, whether they're getting their screenings, whether they're getting their tests, all of those different types of scenarios accompany various measures. Okay. And those measures are part of the healthcare space, the quality space. In a lot of cases, Medicare or Medicaid or other quality making bodies measure insurance companies to see whether they're getting those services for their patients, and they rate them and on those different measures and give them a grade based on those different measures. And so our clients, who most of whom are insurance companies, come to us and say, hey, can you help us get David to do the right things? Because we know that there's a specific measure attached to each of these things. Or can you help us get Kempton to do the wrong things or prevent him from doing the wrong?
Isn't it amazing that taking care of you or your health, it actually makes money for a lot of people?
It does.
Right?
It does. Yeah, it does. And I think in most cases, it makes money for the right reasons. And here's why. By getting you to go get your medication and take it consistently and get your screenings, that it is ideally keeping you from going to the hospital, from having a catastrophic event, from going to the emergency room, from having lower quality of life. And so while there's a little bit of money up front to get you to do those things, it's worth it. It can save a significant amount of money for you as a person, for your insurance company, and for the healthcare system. And so there's a good return on investment. Yeah.
To me, I look at the human body like a car, right? Like we are so naive that we take care of our cars better than we take care of ourselves.
Absolutely.
So never miss an oil change, right? You never
miss an oil change. But I miss humans miss all all the different things that we know we should do. It's just the human nature can get in our way.
It's crazy. Kempton, how did you get into this industry?
It's interesting, David. I had a background in economics, and I had a job. I was working in the Northeast, and it was for an insurance company, and they were putting together healthcare benefits plans for priests and people that work for the Episcopal Church nationwide. And so I took the job. I didn't know much about healthcare. I was from Nashville, and Nashville's a big healthcare city, but I didn't choose the job based on that. I wanted to be in New York, and it was a neat organization. And so I decided while I was working there to go back to school and get a master's in public health and learn as much as I could about this enigma of healthcare, right? I didn't know whether healthcare was about, patients or doctors or hospitals or government or, I didn't know, or pharmaceuticals. The reality is it's all of those things. And so I went back to school, learned more about that. And then started working for Blue Cross, continued to learn more, and decided to go back to school again and got deeper into the informatics and analytics side of things. So I came at healthcare from economics, and I came at data and analytics from healthcare. And so it was a gradual path, but it's been a very rewarding path.
So did you get this job right after your graduation, or what happened after that, after you got your master's?
I did. So I was working while going to school. And so I had the job with putting together benefits for the Episcopal Church while I was getting one master's, and then ended up moving to Blue Cross as one master's finished, and stayed with Blue Cross and went back to school at night there as well. So I always liked to have a foot in the working world and in the academic world. And I'm grateful to still have that today.
So see, that answers my first question.
Exactly. Yeah.
We tend to develop habits, right? Like what happened to me was very similar. When I came, my first computer science degree, I got it in Guatemala. And in that country, people don't just go to school and do nothing else. You actually go to work and then you go to school because you have to pay for your school. Right?
Sure. Yeah.
There is no student loans or things like that, right?
Oh, yeah.
So I got used to it, right? To the 11, 12-hour days, moved to Canada, got a job, and went back to university. We went back to school and got another degree in computer science while working. So then I got into a job. So I'm like, okay, I have all this energy and all this time. How about I do some consulting on the side? So I asked my boss, everything was fine. I was in education and I started consulting for retail. And before I knew, 10 years went by and I was still doing, 12, 13 hours a day. And my wife said, okay, come on, it's time to relax.
Yes, that's good to have somebody that's looking out for you. So yeah, no, I love that because when you've got a foot in both camps, it makes you appreciate both sides, right? And so I love being able to bring what I learned from school and apply it at work, right? But then I also like being able to leave work and go sit and let someone teach me something at school, right? There was this wonderful quid pro quo between my two worlds. And you can't beat also if you work for a company that has a tuition benefit. It's a hidden paycheck. And so I'd recommend that anybody that's got that take advantage of it.
One of the things I always notice is that people that get to your position, Kempton, a lot of other people start envying you and say, oh, he's at the top, he's got this, he's got that, and but they don't realize what it takes to be at the top. So they want the benefits, but they don't want the hard work, right? And, I'm a man of faith, and the Bible says, be strong and courageous and move forward, and I shall be with you. Strong and courageous is when you're actually moving forward. Imagine you didn't go back to school. You already had a job. You already were a professional, but you decided to go deeper into public health, and that got you into analytics and informatics, which got you into science, computer science. And now you're enjoying this amazing position and you're making a big impact. But while you were doing that, the people that envy you are watching Netflix at home. With drinking potato chips, right?
It's really interesting, David. And it helps. What helps is if you like what you're doing, right? Because there's going to be many days where you leave the office and you don't want to get on the subway and go up to campus and do your work, right? And if you don't like what you're doing, it makes it a lot harder to do that, right? So being in a field that has that stimulates you, definitely gives a little bit of momentum and motivation to keep going, even when it's really tough. There were many days where I wanted to come home, and we didn't have Netflix at the time, but I would have liked to come home and watch movies and go to the bar and do all that kind of fun stuff. And I still found time to do a lot of that, but I guess there was sleep that really had to take a backseat.
It's a balance, right? I mean, the position that I am in, for example, it was very hard. It was very hard to get to where I am, and the only thing that I accomplished is I now get to manage my time, and for me that's everything because it's part of the freedom that I gained. But I gained it through many years of hard work and sacrificing my wife, my children. So if you want something, you have to go for it and do whatever it takes to get it, right?
Well, and you probably appreciate the fact that you have freedom over your time because you've navigated a world where you didn't always have that. And you also realize that time is, your most valuable resource at this point. So you want to be the one that's choosing how you use it, right?
Yeah.
You now have the leverage to be able to do that, which is a special place. You don't get that day one, unfortunately. A lot of people want that day one. You want that freedom. You want to be able to choose how you use every moment. And in some cases, you have to play within systems to be able to get to a position where you can kind of have that freedom. And so it's nice to, I applaud you for being there. That's great.
Oh, thank you. But I think the system is, even though people, they talk about the rat race and everything else, I think the system is somewhat right. Because if you don't learn how to enjoy that freedom, how to actually manage your time, you end up what? You end up in a big trouble, right? If you look at most criminals, most people that are serving time in jail, they just had a little too much time. And actually, going back to my faith, right? The Bible talks about that. Be busy, says the Bible. It says, be busy because the days are evil. Take care of the day because the days are evil, meaning you have to learn how to employ your time. And isn't it time what's the most valuable resource on earth anyway?
It absolutely is. And it's amazing how the busier you are, I find, the more the more productive you can be as well, right? Because it's about momentum and it's about having to be thoughtful about those moments. You're right, but the idle mind can be a dangerous place for any of us humans, right? And it's another reason why I like our company and what our company's doing, because there's a recognition that human beings need incentives and the right systems and approaches to be gravitated to behaviors that are most beneficial to themselves. If humans were perfectly rational, we'd all take our medication, we'd all do all of our screenings, we would all be researching every different health aspect that we could, we'd be exercising, all that kind of stuff. We don't naturally gravitate to that. And so having the systems in places where you can know yourself and then know how to motivate others is absolutely paramount in healthcare and in self-management.
Kempton, you don't know how much time and effort I have invested in researching what motivates me and how do I get to do what I really want to do instead of procrastinating. It's amazing, you have to motivate yourself.
Sure.
We're talking about game theory here now, right? Which is a computer science term, but actually it's deeper than that. It's how the human brain behaves. And so when you understand what your biological body is going after, and you realize that it's counterproductive, we have something called the amygdala. And this thing is very primitive, and its only job is to keep you alive.
Yeah.
Problem is that we don't live in the jungle anymore, right? We're not gatherers and hunters anymore. So what happens is that it's constantly trying to save you from hard work, and it's trying to save you from wasting resources. So let's talk about the gym, right? I still have to struggle going to the gym. So I play game theory with myself. I know that if I go work out in the morning or in the afternoon after work, I'm going to feel amazing. I know, because I know there is dopamine that is being released after a workout. But thinking of going there to that half hour of torture, because let's be honest, it's a half hour of torture, right? It's so hard to make myself get there. So what do? You know what I do? I play with my amygdala, right? I say, no, I'm just going to go and walk for a little bit. I'm going to walk for 5 minutes. So then I jump on the treadmill. Once I on the treadmill, I'm like, okay, I'm here, I'm warmed up. How about just lifting some weights? And before I know, my workout is done and I feel amazing. Or I do something, right? Let's say I want to have this amazing dinner. Let's say I want to have salmon one day. So even though I could have salmon every day of my life if I want to, I said, only if I work out this much this day, then I'll get to treat myself. So I'm playing game theory with me all the time.
I love it. No, you're fighting the evolutionary path, which you're right. Our brains have taught us to be lazy, to use as little energy as possible, and to take the fastest paths to get to certain things. And I'm with you. Your brain tries to avoid pain. And so you're really smart to try to eclipse that pain with something that gets you motivated and excited. Like I get to listen to my favorite podcasts when I go for a run, but I have to go for a run to be able to do it. And I heard some other story about a guy who wired his exercise bike so that he can only watch Netflix while he was pedaling his bike. And otherwise the power would go out on his screen. And so gamification is a really powerful thing. And it's critical throughout all of our life. It's present in the tax system. It's present everywhere where it's present in health benefits. There's a reason why preventive care has been made free in a lot of places. So there's no barriers to going and doing the things that are good for you. Right. But, if left to our own devices, that might not always happen. So,
It's always this dilemma, and I believe our audience is aware of this. The things that I want to do, I don't do. And the things that I don't want to do, I end up doing. Isn't it?
that totally. But yeah, I love how you have to trick yourself, and you're tricking yourself at the time, but it still works, right? And so there's that incrementalism too, which is really interesting. So your point about if you get the inertia going, it makes every additional step seem easier, right? So if you can get yourself on that treadmill or just even walking, you can get yourself to the gym. You've taken a step that is kind of getting that boulder in motion, and then it's a lot easier when you decide to go lift weights because you've already got momentum and your brain is not doesn't have all that resistance. So
the amazing part of this strategy can be easily transferred to the work life. For example, the company that I lead, a custom software consulting company, we do a lot of insurance work, by the way, insurance, fintech, stuff like that. We use Agile, right? And what does Agile do? It actually gives you just a high-level overview of what you want to do, but then you divide into little chunks and you forget the rest. And you just work in a little chunk every month, and then you evaluate whether that's meeting the requirements so you can pivot faster, so that you don't have to worry about the big end result. We worry that this little part is built correctly with the most efficient time and doing exactly what the customer wants it to do.
Yeah.
It's exactly the same thing. So people are motivated because instead of writing, 20 modules on this very complicated AI system, what you're doing is a tiny thing that's going to resolve a tiny problem that is a building block in the whole build, right?
Yeah. Now, a friend of mine, Joe, always says, how do you eat an elephant? You got to eat it one bite at a time, right? And so that's not only does that allow you to take a seemingly insurmountable problem and reduce it into micro bits, but it also, per your point, it gives you some of that momentum to say, hey, I just had to take a bite. I can do another one. I can do another one. I can do another one. And then then when you've really, I feel like when you've really achieved a great state is when you're automatically doing some of this stuff and it becomes unnatural not to go exercise. You feel it when you don't go. And that's a great point. Like that's a great point in life. Or when you're working on a project and you feel like something's missing when you're not taking that chunk of it, Yeah. That's a wonderful way that you've gotten your amygdala to conform to I'm sure that's neuroscience. I'm sure that was based in neuroscience what I just said. But anyway,
it's little habits, right? Like remember this admiral that did this graduation speech, and he talked about do your bed first. I don't know if you've heard that, but that's it's incredible because one of the things that I've done, I went to the military for 2 years, and thanks to that discipline, my day always starts the right way. Just waking up and doing your bed, unconsciously you're telling your body you accomplished something.
Yeah. You
have succeeded already in something in your day. So then you start building that inertia that you're talking about. But if you get up, you go to take a shower and your bed is messed up, and then you go out, have a coffee, come back in, and the bed's still messed up, even though you don't care, your subconscious mind cares and is thinking, I already failed in one thing today. So that snowballs into something worse, or the opposite is snowballs into something better, right?
That's absolutely right. No, that's a great example, and it sets the table, and it helps you to think about the rest of your day with a standard too, and thinking, hey, I can do this. So I love it. I love it. One of the, you'll love this because one of the greatest additions we've had to our team at my company over the last year is we hired a doctor of behavioral science, and Chandra Osborne, and she's our she's our chief experience officer, and basically she spent her entire career understanding and trying to she's been studying the ways that people make decisions and what systems and how to design systems to help people make the right behaviors. And she's done it in the healthcare context. She's done it in the digital health context, as well as specifically with diabetes and a few other chronic conditions. And it's just so interesting because she's helped everything. We found that everything we do gets into behavioral science and designing ways to help people make the best decisions for them. So
that's amazing. How do you motivate your team, Kempton? How do you keep your company going?
Well, I think A, you've got to be positive. B, people are about continuous improvement and learning. And so making sure that everyone has access to the latest and greatest information that, that the leadership has. I think it's important also to bring people into the decision-making process so they don't feel like there's a headless monster that's making decisions. Rather, they feel like they're party to the decision-making and that they can contribute ideas. And then they can also help own the pathway and the directional choices that are made. And so, you have to have the right mechanisms for communication. You have to have the right team structure set up. But to me, motivating the team is about exposing them to the things that get me excited about the work we're doing, and conveying that, repeatedly so that they understand why it's, what makes me tick, and hopefully they'll have some of the same, they'll get some of the same enjoyment out of it. So
that's amazing. You touched on ownership, and I think that is part of freedom. One of the reasons why I started my own company back in 2005 is because I knew I could do things better, faster. Therefore, I could service more people than just one employer, and so I brought that type of freedom to my company. So I said, people here will have the right to say what they think we should do, not only like a top down, but it's going to be like a team approach on solving an issues, because I believe two brains work better than one brain. But I didn't know that what I was doing is I was creating the freedom of ownership. So that if you tell somebody to do something in your team and they don't agree what they are doing, they will still do it because they have to get a paycheck. But their morality is going to go down. But if you actually go into a team environment and you say, okay, this is the problem lies, how do we solve it? And collectively, they find the way to solve it and you let them go through, even though it might be the wrong answer.
Right.
They take ownership, and when they fail, they learn better. Because for me, failure is not failure. Failure is learning. Failure is only failure when you quit and you don't do it again. You don't try again. That's true failure. But when you actually try something that doesn't work and you try again, that's learning. Okay, you figure out the way not to do it, right?
Absolutely right. And I think you have to have a culture that allows for people to experiment, to have ideas, and to work through them, and to not give up if they don't work out. I think part of that freedom is allowed by having also the right structure and processes within the company and the right disciplines, so that ideas can be brought forth, but that they also can be considered in the context of a structure and a framework, right? And so it could be through a sprint. It could be through stage gating processes for your product pipeline. It could be through collaboration meetings where information's getting captured. But for your point, you've got to have it such that people have a forum that they can try new things, but then they can rebound pretty quickly if that doesn't work out. And so having those structures is really good for that purpose.
What I'm telling you about, I've seen great successes and also horrible failures. And it's exactly what you're saying. When you have this mentality without any discipline around it, when you don't have a structure, then it's a horrible waste and a failure, because everybody wants to do what they want and nobody agrees, and my way or the highway, and it's a horrible thing. No, it has to be within a structure. You still have to get the job done the fastest way and the most affordable way, right?
That's absolutely right. Like, you want to be able to fail fast, but you don't want that failure to derail the company every time it happens, right? So you've got to keep that momentum in place and have, some of the different experimentation happening within momentum, right? And so
you also have finances in place, right? You always is going to be a restricted budget, right? So you gotta buy within the tools that you have, right?
Right, exactly. Absolutely. It's interesting, David, because the class I'm teaching at Vanderbilt is about it's first year masters in data science students. And many of these people, most of these people are brilliant in terms of their understanding of data science and their machine learning, modeling, and just programming, all sorts of things. But the point of my class is to build out some of those other skills that are going to help make them invincible as team members, as leaders, as parts of an organization. And so the three things that matter, which I think you'll appreciate, that the three goals are to help them become a chef, not a cook, but a chef, where they know how to choose different tools, the AI tool du jour, right? They know how to pick from that, but they don't become overly absorbed in one particular recipe, because if that recipe goes away, it makes it could make their role obsolete. So being a chef, number one. Number two, being a good communicator. So trying to give these programming leaders and these data science leaders tools to be able to communicate their ideas. And then the third is to be a good teammate. And so there can be a propensity or an inclination, if you're really good at coding, programming, modeling, to be an individual contributor and to be siloed. But the folks that are going to be most invincible are the ones that know how to work within a team and communicate within a team. And so to me, those three principles also apply to those systems we were just talking about, where, to empower my colleagues, it's important to give them the tools and the capabilities to be chefs, to be communicators, and to be good teammates.
When I was a developer, I fell into that trap. I fell in love with a certain hammer, and then everything looked like a nail.
Oh, yeah.
Talking about computer languages, right? And platforms and architectures. I'm like, no, this is the only way. This is the best way. No, you gotta, like a chef, you gotta pick the right tool for the right job, right? For the job.
Right.
Right?
That's it may not be a hammer that you need. You may need a chisel. You may need this. But it's interesting too, as we, as the AI revolution occurs, somebody who was considered a rock star or a ninja or whatever, superlative phrase you want to use in a particular language, all of a sudden some of those powers get diminished as AI can take on and cover some of the coding that used to be left to those heroics. And so, trying to help people have diversification is really important.
And if people don't wake up to it, thank you for teaching that, by the way. People don't wake up to this, they're going to miss out. We deal a lot with contracts, a lot, like legal contracts, because of clients and potential earnings, stuff like that.
Sure.
We still use our lawyer team. Like we we send stuff to our lawyers, but now they have the mandate to actually apply AI to review those contracts. So that instead of a 1 week turnaround, now they can go back within 1 day, because you can throw a contract to an AI engine, it will summarize it and produce questions for you. And it will be 90% accurate.
That's amazing. Well, I think those lawyers that can figure out how to use agentic AI or other types of AI tooling to give them strength, to make them, to eliminate some of the busy work, those lawyers are going to be super lawyers, right?
Yeah.
Others that may remain as cooks that do all their own proofreading and other things, they may not reap the same benefits of those force multipliers. So, very interesting, perfect comparison for you to bring up.
Kempton, I would love to start finishing the podcast. I know you're a busy executive, and it's a few minutes have come by, almost 40 minutes.
Flown by. It's flown by, David. I enjoyed it.
I'll ask you one last question before we finish. If you had access to a billboard in front of the busiest highway on earth, what would you write on it?
Oh, man. Oh, my gosh. If I had access to a billboard on the busiest highway on earth, I would say, enjoy every moment and use your time wisely.
Beautiful. And what a beautiful way to finish the podcast, talking about time, because I think that you see, usually there is a pattern talking about, behavioral science, right? There is usually a pattern that emerges out of any conversation. And our pattern was time and how to use it efficiently and how to become better, masters of our time, right?
Absolutely. Well, for sure. And I think I learned a lot from you, and I'm going to definitely try to practice some of the different strategies you shared, especially when it comes to getting to the gym tomorrow morning.
Wonderful. Kempton, God bless you and have a beautiful rest of the week.
God bless you too, David. Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for tuning in to the Leaders in Tech podcast. Check in next week to keep learning how to use technology and leadership to change the game. See you next time.